So good morning. My name is Tracy Slepcevic, and I am the president and co-founder of Autism Health. Our featured speaker today, and I am so excited to have him, is Dr. Darcy Brunk. He is a doctor of chiropractic medicine, known as Doc Darcy. He is a passionate advocate for regenerative wellness and healing with a doctorate in chiropractic medicine and a background in electrical medicine. He has spent over 27 years helping individuals tap into the body's innate ability to heal, regenerate, and thrive. His personal experiences with injury and loss fueled his commitment to cutting-edge regenerative therapies that support long-term vitality. It is such a blessing to have Dr. Darcy here. I met him when I was down in Houston at a conference learning more about stem cell therapy, and we really got to connect. I couldn't have met a more genuine, kind, and passionate man about healing individuals, but mostly healing children. Autism Health. What is our mission? Autism Health is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to educating and empowering individuals, families, and communities impacted by autism and other neurological disorders. Through workshops like this one, events such as our Autism Health Summit, parent coaching, and personalized support, we address the unique needs of each individual. We connect families with trusted resources, including medical professionals and specialists, to ensure individuals with autism and other neurological disorders receive the comprehensive care they need to thrive. We also provide caregivers and professionals with the knowledge and tools to support meaningful growth, assisting individuals with autism to lead healthy, fulfilling lives without limitations. And then here's some of our, our goals in which we look to achieve. So who are we? My husband and I, Steve and I, founded Autism Health. And this was because our son Noah was diagnosed with autism. And through means of biomedical intervention, and what I mean by biomedical is addressing the underlying conditions associated with whatever ails someone. As I was healing my son's underlying conditions, I was also healing myself because I followed the exact same protocol. And, to get these kids to a functioning state, I do not mention cured, fixed, or changed. That was not my goal for my son. My goal for my son was for him to live his fullest life possible without any limitations. And, he does that today. He just turned 20 years old. He works, he drives, he travels the world. He just went to London on his own. Next week, he leaves to go to Japan for 3 weeks with his friends. And I couldn't be more proud. So board of directors, my board of directors are Melanie Dokis. She is our treasurer, April Robinson, who is our secretary, and Mia Romero, who is our director. Our board members are Patricia Marone, Krista Bourne, Jackie Christensen, Amy Schaffert, and Jesselyn Castellini. I'm very proud of our advisory board. Dr. Joshua Burka, I call him my angel doctor because, in 2008 when Noah was diagnosed, he was that doctor who told me that Noah would be okay. Joseph Sliskovich, who's our attorney, Dr. Andrea Nazarenko, Dr. Richard Bartlett, and Dr. Jerry Kartsnell. So call to action. We are a nonprofit organization, and for us to continue to do webinars like this, to host our conferences and provide those scholarships for families who are unable to afford the attendance, we rely on your donations. And it could be the smallest donation. It could be, $5, $10, or a monthly donation of $25. But every little bit helps, and honestly, it all adds up. So we had, over 80 registrants today. If 80 people donated $25, just for today, it would make a huge difference. So there's a QR code. You can also go to autismhealth.com and you can donate. And there's many different ways that you can, support our organization. You can create a team for our upcoming walk. You can host a fundraiser. You can do a corporate sponsorship. You can, be an advocate or a coach if you have the experience. Spreading the word is super important. We are one of the main autism organizations out there, but we do rely on the generosity of our donors. So, Autism Health, we have a walk coming up, and it is a kid-friendly walk, which is why I made it a 3K. I don't know if you've ever tried to see a little toddler walk 5K. So, it in person, it will be at Huntington Beach Central Park, but it's also virtually. It's a hybrid walk. We are also doing a location in Sarasota, Florida, in which one of my board members, Patricia, is putting together, and we will have that location soon. But whether you're able to walk in person or virtually, it's a great deal to get out there and create awareness. Registration is $30 per person. If you want a t-shirt, it's $50 per person. You would pick your t-shirt up in person, or we can mail it to you. But if you do raise $100, then you get a free t-shirt. So all the information is located on our website at autismhealth.com. And so we look forward to seeing you there or seeing you participate. It would mean a great deal to us. If you have an office or a community of parents or family or friends, you can create a team. There's some great prizes that we're going to have. Teams can earn free tickets to the Autism Health Summit, our annual conference. You can also we have a autism grandfather who is making these custom baseball bats, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to sign some. General Flynn is going to sign some. So individuals can earn and win a bat of their choice. And so there's going to be a lot of fun things with the walk. So I'm truly grateful for all of you who've taken the time to attend. This particular webinar is very near and dear to me. When my son was 7 years old, we took him to the Ukraine for stem cell therapy. And Noah regained all his motor skills within 30 days. And I kid you not, my son went from not being able to hold on to a monkey bar, not being able to climb a rock wall, tie his shoes, swing on a swing, balance, climb anything. It was very difficult for him. He had very weak motor skills. And within 30 days, he was going back and forth on monkey bars. We went to the Renaissance Fair. Noah climbed this great big rock wall, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I literally fell to my knees and started to cry. But it it brought back so much life in my little boy. So it holds a very dear place in my heart. And I advocate for stem cell therapy, but I advocate for a very specific stem cell therapy. And I really love what you're going to hear and all the information you will hear from Dr. Darcy. He is well knowledgeable in this field, and it's about the cleanest product that I've ever come across. And it's right here in the United States. So before we start, I would actually like to bring on Brian Vossler, who is he's one of our dads in the community, and his son received the stem cell therapy in February, and he is thriving. So I am going to give him the spotlight. Just give me a minute. I will. Brian, if you can unmute yourself and then go ahead, the floor is yours.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a 6-year-old son who was diagnosed about 3 years ago with on the autistic spectrum scale, nonverbal. When we first got the diagnosis, my son was completely nonverbal, walked on his tiptoes all the time, would not speak unless severely prompted. I mean, repetitively over and over. Um, and through meeting Tracy through um, a contact of mine, we were able to change that. Going through ABA, occupational and speech therapy, were very limited. They had their roles, but we weren't seeing the results that we needed. They were very minimal. After meeting Tracy through a friend of mine, I read Tracy's book, Warrior Mom, and a long battle of reducing his diet, getting him off dairy, sugar, processed foods. We saw results. We cleaned up his guts. They were very promising, but he was still um, had a lot of barriers as far as his verbal fluency and some of his symptoms. In February of this year, Tracy was kind enough to take me to one of these seminars, and I was able to get the mesenchymal stem cells for my son. Um, it was the first stem cell treatment and the only one so far. Since that day, immediately we were able to potty train my son. We were struggling with that, the connection, getting him to be able to do that on his own. Within a very short period of time, my son could go to the bathroom on his own, could brush his teeth on his own. With minimal prompting, could get undressed and dressed, and he's able to um, sit and go to the bathroom, stand and go to the bathroom. He goes to bed on time now every night in a routine. And that's something that we struggled so mightily with before the stem cells. We relied on melatonin and having to lay next to him to get him to calm down and soothe him so that he would sleep. Now, every single night at 8:30 at night, he will tell you it's bedtime. He will go through his routine of brushing his teeth, undressing, dressing into his pajamas, going to bed, and is even better than my youngest son, who is off the spectrum completely and far more easier with that. That's not to say that my son doesn't have any symptoms, and we're still on this marathon. But my son has an increased vocal response since February. And just with the nature of work that I do, I didn't want to, contaminate the sample pool by telling my in-laws what we had done. So we waited to see their reaction. And the first time they saw us, they told us something's different about him. They noticed that he was putting, a sentence or two together for the first time, that he was calmer, that he was more relaxed, that he was focusing. And even after all this time from February, the lingering effects, my son is walking up unprompted to my 6-month old, holding her arms and asking the baby, "What are you doing?" And kissing the baby and smiling at her without us doing anything for that. Um, and I attribute all this to the stem cells for the tremendous work it's done. And I can't wait to get another session with this to see what the results will be beyond this. And as a father, Tracy can tell you with her book, and all of you with your children and experiences, it's the only thing that I want is for him to be seeing these results.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So you had told me that previously on a scale of 1 to 10, Jareth was about a 3. So what would you give him now?
I would give him about a 6.5.
Awesome. Super. Well, thank you for sharing. I'm going to remove the spotlight and We are going to go to Doc Darcy, and I'm going to give you the spotlight. So without further ado, this is Dr. Darcy Brunk, and he's going to do your webinar today.
Thank you, Tracy and Brian. Wow, this is one of those things. I was speaking to someone that was out at an event, and they were asking, "What are you most excited about?" And I've been involved in the regenerative field for over 10 years now, literally through our providers and personally in my own clinic, hundreds of thousands of therapies across the country. And Brian, there's nothing more rewarding than what you just said. So thank you. And thank you for everyone that is here. Thank you for being that parent that is seeking, the answers for your child. And thank you, Tracy. I want to take this time for us to recognize Tracy and her work and what she's doing. We can't do these things without moms that step up and they say, this is what's worked for me, and I'm going to fight for this. And I'm going to show you how to fight for this as well. So thank you for, putting Autism Health together. And we definitely will continue to support that, Tracy, in such a way that, lives can be transformed. And we didn't mention this, but as a thank you for being here as well, perhaps in that event or wherever you want to use it, I want to go ahead and donate a round of therapy to someone that you select that reaches out to you that is in great need so that we can already transform someone's life that maybe couldn't afford it. So we'll talk about that and how that looks, but just know that there will be that one that's already set as our donation into Autism Health. So thank you for that. I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully it'll have me kind of stay in the background for us. My company name is Achieve Vitality. Most of the presentation we're going to be talking about today will be very general. I'm going to talk about stem cell therapy, as Tracy said. We aren't here to cure anything. We're here to give the body the tools to be able to repair, restore, and rebuild. My own career started early on. I was very much interested in health and wellness. I had that mathematic and science mind that God gave me. And I went in to become a doctor of chiropractic. Then after opening my practice, 10 years in, this gentleman came in, a biomedical engineer, and we began to work in electrical medicine in the field of that, doing a microcurrent based thing that had a biofeedback mechanism with algorithms of frequencies, and we were seeing phenomenal results. This was over 20 years ago. So much of the electrical work that you see out there with vagus nerves and EMFs, we were utilizing in the past because we understood that the body needed to increase its voltage and its function. What propelled me into the regenerative world was my own injury. I was in a massive car accident actually out in California visiting my sister, where we got hit at 70 miles an hour. That impact caused 3 herniations up in my neck and 3 in my back. I use my skills and I utilize chiropractic as a doctor of chiropractic, obviously, electrical medicine. I did regenerative medicine. I did pain management things, acupuncture, everything I knew how to do. And I just still was in a lot of pain. I got about 40% better. And that's when, much like your steps were ordered here today, because I don't believe there's ever a coincidence. Someone invited you here, much like Brian mentioned, and Tracy came alongside him. Someone came alongside me, heard my story, and they said, you need to try a regenerative therapy. And that's when I said yes. And I got my own testimony where it had regenerated. It gave my body the tools to regenerate, where the numbness and tingling went away in my hands within a couple months. Within 3 months, my body had sufficiently repaired itself that the discs in my back shifted and all my pain went away. Now, I've watched through my career people suffer, and I've watched people with aging suffer. what I've become focused on. And like I say to people, listen, it is an honor and a privilege to transform your life, your father's life, your grandfather's life. There is nothing more rewarding. And I get how, maybe this is God's own heart. There's nothing more rewarding than beginning to give the tools to a parent in your experience where it begins to change the path of their child, regardless of their situation. So, as a second thing, I want to say thank you to all the parents because without your passion, without your drive, without your determination, your children wouldn't reach the heights that they reach. So, thank you for being part of what we call a healing revolution because stem cell therapy is that wave of the future. 10 years ago, this was something that very few people talked about, the doctors knew about. You had to leave the country to get, and there wasn't a lot of information. Now thanks to the abilities in science and also, partly, our political openness, this is something that is available now, and it's not just the wave of the future. It's here, it's now, it's ready for you. But I believe this is why we are here because it's personal. It's not really about the doctors. It's not about the future of medicine. It's about the future of not just your personal health, but as this picture shows here, it's about the future of your family's personal health. As we talk, I want you to think about one thing. There's a scripture I love to think about. I think that our founding fathers even wrote it into the Declaration. And it's Acts 17:28, where it says, in him we live and move and have our being. Live is life, movement is liberty, and have our being is the pursuit of happiness. So I want you to think about what it means for your child to have their being, for doing what they were created to do. And one of the things I've noticed is there's no more impactful child than a child and their parents that are walking through a battle because that child, even though it's a battle, impacts so many more lives. So each of your children are called, each of your children have a purpose, and each of your children are going to be effective in transforming other people's lives because of the work and the dedication that you do. And then it can be a generational experience, not just regenerational. So as we talk, think about what it means for you to have your being. Tracy, you said it so well, where often the parents benefit from the changes and the health choices to try and help our children. I think that's why, our good friend that is up managing our health situation is now focused on the children. Because we know that if you change the children's life from a health standpoint, from a nutrition standpoint, you change a nation. So thank you for being the parents that also are asking for that because in the healthcare world, it is a supply and demand world. So what I mean by that is the more you demand it, the more it will be required to be supplied. So please continue to press and push and talk to your local people, talk to your state people so that healthcare protocols such as regenerative therapy can be readily available for us long term. This is what I believe is the power that created you, is the power that heals you. I believe that our bodies are miraculously and wonderfully made. I believe that they are created in God's image. And this is what I've learned through my actually, it's now nearly 31 years of my career is healing and regeneration are already encoded in our DNA. Our very structure is programmed to repair, restore, and rebuild. And what happens is the message can get off. That message and that as we're building our bodies, that structure building, how that message get off can happen from multiple sources. It can be environment, it can be trauma, it can be some type of poison or something that you come in contact with. It can be mold. There's all these different things that our children and even our bodies are exposed to that we're fighting. There was a doctor that said it the best. We live in a toxic world, and sometimes the toxic burden is hard to overcome for the body. And in children, that can happen as well. So the toxicity that comes after our children can adversely affect them. I want you to know that you, if you have a diagnosis that's severe, this information is for you as well, because a wise man stores up an inheritance for his children's children. And as Tracy said, if your health is not in good position, what does it look like for you to have your being? And if you just have your children right now, my vision even for you is your grandchildren and your great grandchildren. So as I speak, hopefully this speaks to you as well and your health so that you can not only live at what I call a Genesis 6 life of 120 years is my plan, but be there for your children and your grandchildren so that they can do this. Now let's focus back on the children because that's really what we're looking at. And just know, even for them, the toxic burden in their body can be overwhelming. So I'm going to simplify this. And I utilize this picture of this man in pain because I just don't like pictures of kids that are struggling. I don't like them. So degeneration is the problem. I'm going to take this and please understand. I am in no way diminishing the struggle that you're going through as I describe this. I'm simply trying to make, a matter of fact, let me change those words. I am in no way diminishing the journey that you're going through because I know that words are powerful. So that is simply a journey you're going through. And I want to break it down into something very simple, and it's this word degeneration. And like it says here, and I know my head's a little bit in the way on the screen. Degeneration has the word gene in the middle, degenerate. It's to deteriorate both physically or mentally, go into disrepair, fall apart, break down, or be less than your former self. Now, there's another thing that I had an epiphany while traveling one day. If we are created in God's image, and I believe we are, and then really, and we were created perfect because God is perfect, then degeneration is actually the degenetic rate. It's a whole nother conversation of why that started, but the rate at which we fall out of the image that we were created in is what degeneration is. Now let's go one level further here, and let's break that down all the way down to the cellular level. Your problem is cellular degeneration, because if the cell isn't functioning well, then the tissues can't function well. Then the organs can't. Then the systems can't. Then you can't. So for your child, let's go all the way down to the cellular level. And I know that you've looked into this, and let's break down what cellular degeneration truly is. And this is where I'm blessed because the electrical medicine protocols that I learned when I had well, really, God ordered this man that was a biomedical engineer to walk in my door. And I aligned with him and the scientist and studied electrical medicine for over 10 years so I can understand cellular function and voltage, and that your body utilizes voltage to repair itself. So if cellular degeneration is your problem, then regeneration is your solution. And again, the regenetic rate is the rate at which we return to what we were created in the image of. And now, if we go in and say cellular regeneration, I believe that giving the tools to your body, supplementation, diet, and by the way, diet is not just food. Diet is what you say, diet is what you hear. I want you to understand that your child's cells are listening. So make sure that your words are powerful because they're hearing that, they're responding to that. And then the environment around them, the toxins, the poisons, all those things, consider how to create that best environment to repair, restore, and rebuild. And so that think whether yeah, well, let's put it simple. A happy heart is good medicine. A joyful mind causes healing. Now, the rest of that old proverb says, but a broken spirit rots the bone. So that's why healing and health and regeneration start with your diet of words and how things happen. I want to teach you very quickly about cellular regeneration because this is what we really want to do. We want to activate the wellness from within. That's our purpose with nutrition. That's our purpose with the environment. That's our purpose with regenerative therapy. That's our purpose with love. That's your purpose in holding and hugging your child, is you're activating wellness within them, and their body, as you know, responds to that. So that's where, Tracy, thank you for that. Whenever I'm working with any of our clients, I always look at it and say, well, the question you should be asking any of your doctors is, what would you do if this was your child? Or if it was for someone that's an adult, what would you do if this was your brother, your sister, your uncle? And I'm going to tell you the answer every time is activate regeneration. Give the body the diet and the things that it needs to repair, restore, and rebuild, because the body is miraculously and wonderfully made. You're not your diagnosis. There is hope for healing. And so I'm going to play a video here real quick. Oops, you know what? Let me do this first. I got ahead of myself. So what really happens? How do we activate the body from within? There's four structures and things to think about. Is how do we increase the function? We can get in deep into the genetics, the DNA, the focus, and all those things. I want to keep it simple. Cell voltage is the key. And so dive into cell voltage. And this is where we talk about alkalinity. I'm going to use my hand up above here for alkalinity, and then acidity. And health is a negative charge or alkaline. And what happens is our cells are exposed to toxins, problems, signals, trauma, injury, memory at a cellular level, changes the function, and it starts to lose that voltage, eventually flips polarity and becomes a positive charge. That's where sickness and disease comes in, is when our cells don't work. Well, the key to cell voltage is in the cell membrane layer, and they have gateways of voltage. And as you see in this side, it's a double phospholipid layer that has channels and gateways that open down and in and open out and up, that things go out and things come in that are restorative to the body. And this is an electrical gateway and a channel and a double phospholipid layer that creates that. Now, I know one of the previous thing was talking about this very clearly, and this is really an electrical gradient, as you see in this picture here. As you're coming up and you're inside the cell, there's an electrical gradient on the inside. There's this thing that all of you parents have studied called mitochondria, that is the powerhouse and the energy source within the body that creates this voltage and energy that the cell wall is activated on. Now, one of the things to think about is what type of fat that you actually eat, because the processed fats actually create a very thin layer, and you start to lose your electrical gradient at the cellular level. So the gateways no longer can work. It's almost like taking and putting a saran wrap as our cell membrane instead of this double phospholipid layer. And unfortunately, as we looked at, well, it was really my generation's children that the fast food industry came in and really marketed. Why? Because you had these free playgrounds, right? And you could go get fast food and sit and relax, and your kid could just play in this controlled environment in a free playground, and you fed them chicken nuggets and all this stuff that had adverse things into it. So diet is such an important thing, because that double phospholipid layer, that cell voltage, that immediate contact, if that membrane's not working, the gateways and the channels don't work either. Now, the thing that everyone misses, and this is my big take home today from a cellular level, it's not just about mitogenesis, which is increase in mitochondrial function. And I agree, all disease has its roots in loss of mitochondrial function, but it really has its roots in loss of voltage. The factory within our cells that makes all this wonderful messaging and all these wonderful programs that our cells preach and release, and you're going to see this in a video, is called the endoplasmic reticulum. And they're assembled and they're tethered together to the mitochondria. And that ER is around the nucleus of the cell, and the nucleus is the mind and the brain. Here's what's interesting, is a cell has a mind, and a cell has memory. In the regenerative world, just think, we now can take a regenerative therapy that's donated after birth, derived from that child that was being formed and knit in the womb. They're born, God gives them the breath of life. It changes the programming. It's a perfect moment where we can acquire the messaging that's not exposed to the toxins and problems and signals of the body to remind our own cells how to function, to increase the mitochondria, to increase the voltage of the cell membrane, to turn the endoplasmic reticulum factory back on to start producing the right signals instead of the wrong signals, or start making what was supposed to be made in the first place and actually start doing what it was programmed to do, much like Brian was talking about. So that's what this thing called the endoplasmic reticulum is, and it's diet and oxygen and remember, our diet is our words, it's our environment, it's our joy. You know, it's all of those things put together that activate the cell with this energy. And I did this slide because remember, oxygen is a big part of that. There's this thing called Krebs cycle that's showing right here up in the number 2 that creates energy. And with oxygen, it creates 32 ATP. Without a high level of oxygen, it creates 2. It literally becomes I call it a spark, or it literally is just enough to keep the cell alive. But cells aren't supposed to just be alive. They're supposed to do their job. And here's what's interesting. Every cell has a frequency. So I want you to go back to cellular degeneration, regardless of the diagnosis, whether it's a child that's in this journey to health or it's you that's in a journey to health. If you can give the body the tools to activate, to repair at a cellular level, remember the cells repair the tissues repair the organs repair the systems. So the key is to have all the messaging to affect every type of cell so that it'll repair, restore, and rebuild. And that thing that we now call stem cells, I call it God's perfect cell, is what does that in our body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this video real quickly. It's just a couple minutes so you can see how stem cells in our body work. Let me see if I can get this going here.
Stem cells are the master cells of the body, the building blocks of tissues and organs. The umbilical cord and the blood left in it at birth contain a broad diversity of pristine newborn stem cells that have demonstrated the ability to help other tissues and organs heal themselves after injury or disease. While researchers have yet to identify every type of newborn stem cell, they have isolated specific stem cells that are the building blocks for other cells and organ tissue throughout the body. Hematopoietic stem cells, found in cord blood, have been used for 20 years to help regenerate the body's blood and immune system. Mesenchymal stem cells, found primarily in the umbilical cord tissue itself, have the ability to help form bone or connective tissues like cartilage and ligaments. Stem cells from the umbilical cord and cord blood have distinct benefits compared to adult stem cells from bone marrow. They're younger, have greater ability to multiply, and have had minimal exposure to environmental factors like viruses or chemicals that can interfere with cell structure and function. But what remains a question is how newborn stem cells work together to help the body heal. Researchers theorize that this diverse population of cells functions like a symphony, each type of cell having a different role to perform in healing damaged tissue and cells. Current research suggests that newborn stem cells help orchestrate a natural repair process by helping to reduce inflammation, stimulate the growth of blood vessels, improve blood flow to injured areas, and ultimately enabling injured cells to repair themselves.
Okay, so as you can see in that video, there's all sorts of different types of stem cells, and what happens is when it flashed in that that's the body speaking to itself. And what I want you to understand is, I said this earlier, your cells are listening, and so are your stem cells. Stem cells have the ears to hear. So let's categorize this. Their actual intelligence. So AI, there's AI that's actual intelligence, and there's AI that's artificial intelligence. I like to activate actual intelligence in the body. I'm not against the artificial intelligence that comes from medicine because it helps to transform lives. But just think the most powerful thing you can do is bring it back to the way the body did it. And as you saw, it would travel to the area. And there's all sorts of different types of stem cells. Every cell, as you heard, has a specific frequency or program that it can create. And when we talk to you individually, there is, a difference in the regenerative world of sourcing. Some of the sourcings are from just one source. We're able to take and acquire the signaling and the messaging from every type of cell that needs to be talked to, that needs to hear the message, that needs to be reminded how to repair, restore, and rebuild. Now, at this point, I want to say, and that's where, by the way, you could see kind of like that pixie dust stuff coming out. That's the message that cells preach. They teach your body. We used to think, my electrical medicine portion, I thought that cells would come to a cell that was senesced or dying. It would increase the voltage of the cell wall, donate its mitochondria, and then by the vibration of this cell, because every cell has a specific vibration or hertz, it would become that cell. It was accurate, but incomplete in the last 10 years. And as we grow in our knowledge, this is what I now know, is that they actually assess it, use the actual intelligence inside the cell. It makes a message. It's, listen to this, messenger RNA that's protein wrapped, not the stuff you make, not the artificial mRNA, the body's own. And then it releases that protein wrapped messenger RNA into the body to repair, restore, and rebuild. It's the message that your body knows it needs. So here's what's important with this. I want to remind this, ethically sourced, it's donated after birth. At birth is what it says here, but it's after birth. Here's why it's important. The breath of life. There's a scripture that says, life of the flesh is in the blood, and blood is always for atonement. Well, here's what happens is there, it also talks about us being slowly formed and knit in the womb. Moms, your child in the womb is borrowing your breath of life. They're a person. They are not an individual yet, right? When God gives them, when they're born, God gives them that breath of life. And that's when they now have their own breath. And that's the life within them. That's the oxygen. That's what God gives. But here's what I know to be true in my heart of hearts is it changes a program at a cellular level to go from being slowly formed and knit into exponential increase. That's the perfect moment when we can acquire this. It's donated after birth. And the moms that donate, number one, we do not accept COVID vaccinated donations. We do high levels of serologic testing. We microscopically examine to ensure there's no mycotoxins, bacteria, virus, fungus, or evidence of those types of things. And I can go into a deep dive personally with you on what that looks like. But just know there's all sources of stem cell therapy out there. And I'm not here to speak against anyone, speak for or against any one lab, because in fact, the worst regenerative product is still better than the best medication, because it's the power that God used to create. So if you're looking at this and you're looking at regenerative therapy, I'm going to say implore you, not beg, but implore you, choose regenerative therapy as part of your regimen. I believe that we have one of the best sources, but it doesn't matter where you start. We just want to give you the best. Choose regeneration. So here's the advantages of regenerative therapy is they are, because they're so precisely cleaned, there is no blood typing. There's no what's called human leukocyte antigen rejection. This reminds me, at this point, I'll say, by the way, most of the companies out there use what's called DMSO as a cryoprotectant. What I saw in my experience is children that were having difficulties with their health at a young age from whatever problem that changed inside their body, changed the messaging. They could react to this DMSO. It was called a histamine reaction. In adults, 1% react. In children, it seemed to be 40 or 50%. So I went to work to clean up the process. And I sat with our scientists and I said, we got to get the DMSO out. And we successfully did that with a different crowd protectant. Then, believe it or not, as I was looking at the ingredients that were utilized to, have nutrition for it, there was a protocol. I won't say the name of it, but it had phenol red in it. That was the nutrient regimen. And I said, we can't have that. I mean, when you saw it on the shelf, it looked like, you guys remember the old Kool-Aid commercials, that super red, red, red stuff? That's what it looked like. So we removed that as well. So this is a very pristine, all natural, crystal clear regenerative therapy that once we made those changes, we had zero histamine reactions. And as you can see here, just so you understand, we just need to get it in. IV can be done. Now, many of you know your child may not be one that's a candidate for a needle in an IV. It can go intramuscular. The joint situation is for the adults. If there is a problem with needles that's so significant and we have the ability to simply have your child take a deep breath in, we can do intranasal. I think a combination is great. When we work with clients, we talk with you as the parents, and we just kind of decide what the best avenue is to get that therapy in. And, we've had great successes. No, and I want to say this too. I have nothing to do with why this works. I simply get to be an advocate and an educator. This is what God gave us then to utilize in that cord and cord blood. He gave us the knowledge to separate it out so that it can be autonomous. It's called self-factoring. And I truly give him the glory, like for Brian, for what happened in his son's life, and Tracy for yours and everyone else's. I'm a doctor who I don't need to be right with the diagnosis. I don't even like them because I believe sometimes they can be curses spoken on people. And so I get to say there's hope for healing, and you're not your diagnosis. And I give God the glory for any increase that happens. So here, there's other sources. We can talk to you about those in person. Just know it's a matter of dosage and potency. And then, of course, the cleanliness of it and some other things. We'll go into that. There's a lot of stem cell patches out now. There's activators. There's all these things that have stem cells in them. We can explain the differences on those. Just know we create what I believe to be one of the most potent sources of regenerative cell factors. And what's important is it has every portion of messaging that the body needs, regardless of what type of cell it is, because different stem cells can create different cells. So if you have just one type, you only can affect that one, what that cell manufactures. So we've got the factories of everything, and that way we don't need to know what you need. Much like electrical medicine, it was an algorithm of frequencies that would go in and out and up and down, so we could affect every frequency of the body that was looking. So as you said, I'm going to wrap it up here pretty quick. What could happen when we increase cell voltage in a child? I took this simply from the parents, and everyone is different. And I wish I knew when, well, let me put it this way. I believe it's always miracles when we get increase. Our goal is to increase the cell function by 20% with the therapy. And then when that happens, it's different areas, because the body is the author priority, and we can't dictate where it goes. What's the delivery system? What's the river of life inside of us that delivers all our nutrients, our oxygen, everything else? It's our blood. And when you get it in the body orchestrates where it goes, like that video said. Just think if we could have, emotional regulation, taking that dysregulation process that's happening, become more regulated. What if we could just diminish that sensory part where I call it, overload, right? Where the cell is at such a highly sensitive rate. It's called an activation of firing. And it's an excitation process where the nerve starts to fire and there's a relaxed state. And when there's a sensory overload, The relaxed state is right below the firing state. And if you can come in and have that voltage process, the cell be able to relax, if you can open the channels and get the inflammation out of the cells, what happens can be phenomenal. It can affect cognition, it can affect motor skills, it can affect speech, it can affect sequencing. I wish I could dictate how and what it would do. I'm going to take that back. I don't, because it wouldn't be right. I'm happy to say I can't dictate how it works because when it gets in, the body does that because the body is the author of priority. Tracy, I'm going to turn it back to you. I want to offer to anyone that's available a complimentary consultation, and you're going to show them how to reach out to you so that we can make sure that happens. And then what we'll do is just on the process of, and we just added California, thanks to you, Tracy. We have facilities all over the country. We've added Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana's now in, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. It's happening quickly. This was just the map that I had. If you'd like a consultation, personally reach out and Tracy will give you directions here on that. This is what we're here to do is, and I did a typo there, forgive me for that. I don't like typos. It's supposed to say live your life at the next level. And that's what we want for you. That's what we want for your children. So thank you for Tracy inviting me, and I'll let you decide the protocols on who gets to come in and who receives that donation of that therapy. And all I would ask is that we get to, like Brian did, have some testimonies, not for public, but for you to hear it privately so that we can know here's the things that could happen with regenerative therapy. So God bless, and parents, thank you for being who you are. Tracy, I'll put it back over to you.
Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I'm going to keep you, spotlighted because we're going to ask some questions. But first and foremost, I'd like to give my own personal experience of the type of therapy that Dr. Darcy has created. And so I received the stem cell therapy. My whole family did back in February. Myself, I had suffered from severe and chronic headaches and migraines. So I would at least wake up with a headache every morning. I might have a cup of coffee. It would ease up and go away. If it did not, I would have to give myself a shot of Toradol, an anti-inflammatory. And over time, your body builds up an immunity to that, and that starts to not work. And, I've done Botox injections in my head. I really didn't want to do that anymore. I started to have side effects from that. But since February, I have not had a single headache or migraine. We are in that season here in Southern California where the barometric pressure is off. And this is typically the time where I suffer daily. So it has definitely given me my life back. And then I also got my blood work back. And I wasn't sure if I told you, Dr. Darcy, but for over 5 years, my white blood cell count was low. I have not had a normal white blood cell count in over 5 years. I honestly can't remember. I just got my blood results back a couple weeks ago. My white blood cells are normal. I was super excited about that. I have some other stuff to work on, but nothing that diet can't change. And then also, my daughter was in a car accident the year prior to receiving the stem cell therapy in February, and she had really bad shoulder pain. And then she had severe burns from the airbags. She was hit pretty hard from a cop car in pursuit, and she no longer has those burning sensations or that pain anymore. My son had sensory overload. He's doing better. And Steve, I think it's a matter of looking at his blood work, but so far our family is doing really well. So I'm going to move on. If you have questions, I ask that you put them in the Q&A, and we are going to go one by one and I will answer them. So Dr. Darcy, have you worked with people or kids outside of the US? And how do we get a hold of you? We are based in South Africa.
We have worked with people outside of the country. Of course, getting therapies and things overseas can be difficult. There is protocols that can happen for that. It can be very expensive. As far as getting a hold of us, definitely work through Tracy on that, and she will send all that information over to you so we can discuss that. And thank you for being on and helping to transform lives. If it's something that we can make happen, we'll do what we can. If you can't make it over to the States, obviously a flight like that would be a very difficult thing. So Tracy, you reach out to Autism Health and she'll get you that information on getting in contact with us.
All right, so anybody else have any more questions? You could go ahead and you can type it into the Q&A.
And Tracy, as they're typing that, you had referred another one that came in recently, and you sent some pictures literally right after, like, what was it, the next day or that after?
Oh, yes. So we had a little boy with autism on the way down to Texas. So she actually flew to Texas to actually meet personally with Dr. Darcy and have him administer, or his staff administer, the stem cell therapy. And she said her son was very dysregulated on the way down, was screaming, crying, sensory overload from the plane. And afterwards, so he did receive it intramuscularly. And on the way back, she said he was as calm as can be, just playing on his tablet. Within a couple days, she had told me that he had never gone in a pool before. He had always screamed, cried, sensory issues. And I could say that because with the ocean, my son had the same issue. And he went swimming for the first time in a pool with his mom. And I haven't spoke to her since that time. That was just about a week and a half ago. She gave me an update, so I'm due for another update. And so that was really exciting. But it seems, in my personal experience, is that I've seen a lot of results with my son and my family and myself within the first 3 to 6 months. And it's, sometimes you see results immediately. We had a family member or a friend of the family who's kind of like my second dad with Parkinson's. Within a week, he had better physical skills, better cognition, and his speech was less slurred, so better speech. And even his speech therapist and his physical therapist made a comment and said, "Wow, what is it that you've done?" Did it cure him? No. He's very severe, and he could probably go for a second round because of the severity of his disorder and what's going on. So I think we got. So no more questions. Well, wow, that's the first.
I see a couple that came up on my screen. I'm not sure if it's because I'm spotlighted
Oh,
or not.
open. Sorry. I was on the wrong, I was in the answered part. I was answering them. Okay. Is therapy typically covered by health insurance?
It's a great question. Now, this is not an FDA approved therapy, as many of you would probably have guessed. And as a result, insurance does not cover it. And you can kind of figure out why that was. What I would like to think in the future that perhaps it would for specific situations. However, as you may understand, the regulatory and the whole oversight process significantly changes when that happens. So no, this is a personal investment situation right now. And I know for the parents here that you've invested greatly to that. But that's also why, Tracy, we want to work towards having donations come in so those who cannot afford it can receive a therapy. So think about that as well. If you're listening to this and you have the financial means, to help someone else, donate to Autism Health, and you can dictate that, and we'll work with that as well. So good question, though.
Okay, from Ruth, it seems your examples show improvement after stem cell therapy treatment. How many sessions does the therapy consist of?
So think this is a process. It is indeed a journey. Most of the examples we gave, I believe, were with just one round. And that's why I say get a vision of what a repair looks like and have those goals. Think about what you would like to see, but what's more miraculous is just watching and seeing what happens. And as Brian had said, he's looking forward to the next round. So you receive a round, we watch and wait. Think it will probably take a couple rounds. But if all we get is 20%, and we'll definitely get more, in my opinion, based on what I've seen, because children are so amazing. And it's just their body just needs to be reminded of the message of how to create the voltage, the myelin sheaths, the everything that helps them. It could take a couple rounds of therapy for that, but each one, if you make a step in that right direction, is worth it. And then just to follow up on that, people say, how permanent is it? Right. And children, what we typically see is once the body's reminded how to do it, it can do it well. It just might take a lot of reminding, and one round of therapy will reach so far. And this is the way I like to describe it. Everyone's road to recovery is different lengths, and everyone's driving different cars. And one round of therapy is simply a tank of gas. And however far we get on that, we consider it blessing, and then we just consider each case from there.
So also, I'd like to add, a lot of people do stem cell therapy for longevity. Can
Yes.
you explain a little bit about that?
So one of the things we talk about from our life standpoint is as we age, stem cell counts decrease and decline. When we're born, it's 1 in 10,000 cells or stem cells. It's highly potent. By the time we build our structure and our temple, and not just 10 to 12, but more into the late teenage years, goes down to 1 in 100,000. By the time we're in our 40s and 50s, it's 1 in nearly a half a million. In our 60s, it's 1 in a million. And in our 80s, it's 1 in 2 million. So if we can continually bring the message and the expressions and the programming that show and activate our own body's function to continue to repair, restore, and rebuild, then that can increase the quality of our function. And the quality is what increases the quantity. Individually, we can go through some of the testimonies where we've seen organs repair, and we've seen, people get their lives back, much like for me, my body repaired the discs and things like that. So longevity for you is an important thing, and people do this for wellness now. We call it a health assurance program, is to activate your body to continue. And I guess the statement to end that answer is the key to healthy living is healthy regeneration. And regenerative therapy is just one of those things that can do that. Lifestyle and diet and, your environment are all factors.
Okay, so the next question is for me. There's a lot of good information in this presentation. Would it be possible that this Zoom meeting recording is sent out as a video link? Yes, absolutely. So we have on our website, if you go to Autism Health /monthly webinars, or if you're on Autism Health and you go under events, monthly webinars, then we have all of our monthly webinars on there. This one will take until Monday. My web guy is not in until Monday, so I will upload it to YouTube actually, and then you can find it on our website. From Kim and Glenn, is stem cell infusion a one-time procedure or does it have to be repeated? I think we answered this question. So,
And Tracy, everyone, whatever level of regeneration the body acquires is miraculous, in my opinion. In other words, and lengths of time can be different too. Some may see instantaneous change, some may see slow, almost imperceptible changes. Think of a dimmer switch of a light being turned up, and some are just a light switch. So, what are miracles? The ones that happen immediately, the ones that take months, or the one that takes a year? All of them are miracles.
okay, from Elliot. What have you seen as the primary difference in development between kids with stem cells and those without? Our son is 4 years old. He has never spoken a word. He has been in speech therapy for 2 years, still no results. Is this the way to go?
So, this question, how I answer it is, if your child, if your 4-year-old son was my son, what would I do? My experience, Elliot, only comes from ones that are in the regenerative field. In other words, that's where I began to work with the children. What I love about this is that it doesn't harm them. There's nothing in here that will cause anything to be worse. It only has a chance at increasing. And I think that, as Tracy could attest, early intervention is a really good key as far as when there's development. Things significantly slow down when they become older. So, definitely at 4 years old, this is a very crucial time that, the sooner the better can be. The possibility or the potential of faster benefits than later. And, I'm that regenerative guy. I have people ask me, should I do this before or after surgery? And the answer is, well, when do you want to increase your regenerative capacity, before the surgery or after? The answer is before. So I always tell people, and one of your board members, Tracy, said this very well. There are things you can do to posture and position your child to be in a better position for a regenerative therapy, diet and all sorts of different things that they are specialties in. I believe it was Dr. Larry that said that. However, that takes time. So if you have the ability, I always believe, now is the answer to when should I start.
Awesome. So me personally, this is, I had a non-speaking child, and Noah, when I started biomedical intervention, he was 3.5. We were getting up there. It took a long time for anybody to even touch the word autism or tell me what was wrong with my son. They just kept telling me everything was normal. So, everybody's experience is the same. When you meet a child with autism, you meet a child with autism. They are all different. They're all going to respond to therapies differently. But I did everything I possibly could. I had no barriers. We had lost our business. Our house went into foreclosure. I sold everything that I possibly could, and then we short sailed our home so we can actually take Noah to the Ukraine for stem cell therapy. And all these different things that we did really worked. Healing the gut, repairing the gut, really helps with bringing back speech as well. But to me, I always say I threw everything at Noah but the kitchen sink, and whatever stuck. But he is a normal functioning kid today. He does have his struggles for sure, but he can do whatever it is that you and I do. So obviously, that decision is always going to be up to the individual or the parent. But me personally, as a parent, it is one of the better things that I've done for my son. Okay, from Ruth. Have you had success in spinal cervical disc repair? This is
That's an
pretty.
easy one for me personally, absolutely. Right, because
Yes.
I had 3 herniations in my neck. Actually, Tracy, and I don't know if you went down there. It was a year ago in May. that I was flying down to Houston for a conference, and let's just say the airplane, they called it a safe landing with failed landing gear, but we came down so hard that the landing gear crushed through the wing, and we actually, I would describe, crashed on the runway. I ended up with another herniation in my neck and a compression fracture in my thoracic spine, and I did a higher dose of the regenerative therapy immediately. Now I do it for wellness so that I can be and stay well. But here's what's interesting: the MRI I took showed a herniation in my neck from that. Here's the significance: there was 3 herniations from the first injury 10 years ago. And people looked at, doctors as well, looked at my MRI and said, all your other discs are like perfect. How did you do that? And I just said, I gave my body the tools to repair. So the answer for cervical disc is it's the best chance. Remember that we can't author the priority. And I have a statement I say, when pain is your barometer, you often miss the miraculous. And that's the organic changes that can happen because the body will always prioritize a regenerative capacity for your heart, your lungs, your kidney, and those types of things.
Awesome.
I think did we lose you?
No, I'm here. I'm just typing.
Cool.
I'm typing out
Okay.
all the answers for them. So from Jean, what does Children's Health Defense say about stem cell therapy?
I
So
think that's a question for you. I don't know that answer.
right. So I've worked with Children's Health Defense. They have done research. So honestly, they have a database that if you just type in words or whatever, it'll come up with that subject. So if you put stem cell therapy, I do know personally, that a lot of individuals that work for Children's Health Defense have had, the success of stem cell therapy, but I cannot speak for another organization. Only, but we do work, tandemly with Children's Health Defense and healing these kids. But honestly, I would say go to their website and do a search.
And Tracy, I can see the questions as well. So if you want me to read and answer the next one while you type, I can.
Okay, Kim and Glenn, our 25-year-old autistic son operates at a 6-year-old level. Would stem cell therapy help him function at his age level?
As I mentioned earlier, the optimal time, the sooner the better. And that's really, even though 25 years is in a much further along process, this is what I'd say is there's hope. I don't know how much, but I would be in that range of what would I do if this was my son again. And because of the benefits we have seen improvement, in children that are in the older range of the spectrum disorder situations with autistic children. And so to answer that is that would be something we could hope for and expect. Unfortunately, as you know, any therapies we can't give a like, hey, this is what it's going to do or that. And we like to have one rule, and that's under promise and over deliver. So I would say to you, well, what are the things that you would hope to improve and focus and pray on those? And it's only going to help. And then also remember that it's not just the autistic diagnosis, that it's that cell re-regulation, that cell reminder on how to function. And that can happen at any level. That's why we have patients 80, 90 years old that have benefits, in not just, joints, but organs as well.
So Joe is asking, how important is it to address gut issues and make dietary changes prior to receiving stem cell therapy? And if gut issues and dietary changes are not addressed, is the stem cell therapy less effective?
I think that if you don't address gut issues, everything's less effective, to be very direct. Um, I would say that if you have the ability to address that and a doctor that knows how to do that with you, that's best case scenario, and it can make the regenerative therapy much more effective. Now, here's what's interesting is we have seen significant benefits of all ages with activating the body and the gut and the balancing of the microbiomes. Why? Because it travels where the blood flows, right? And our gut has this thing called the mesentery. And I tell people it's like a Broadway curtain is the blood supply, and your colon's at the bottom. So one of the best ways to, if you want to have regeneration and someone has gut issues, is to, in close proximity to the therapy, the first round or so, you eat. Why? Because it turns the blood flow on to the gut. But I would definitely say if you have a very good doctor that works with gut issues and can do that, and you have a plan of therapy, addressing the gut issues in advance is a great thing. However, if you don't have that good source, starting immediately still will yield benefits. But of course, anytime you can increase and address function of the body, decrease inflammation, increase organ function, then other things can be the focus of repair. Very good question, though.
So I did mention in my answer that they could reach out to me for a free consultation because I believe in repairing the gut, boosting the immune system, because those stem cells can also go to heal the gut, heal the immune system. So if you want the maximum benefit, yes. So the protocol that we followed when Noah was 7 years old was we had already done a full gut healing cleanse. We healed him of his leaky gut, and then we boosted the immune system, and there are various different ways to do so. And then we did the stem cell therapy. But those stem cells, if correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Darcy, can also go to heal the gut.
Well, your body, what it does is your body, when it think your own body is what does the work and the heat and the programming to repair, restore, and rebuild. So what I like to say first is we just activate within, and it's your body that does that repair. Yes, it can go to whatever because the body orchestrates the healing. Remember the video where it flashed? That's the paracrine signaling. It'll go where it needs to go, and the gut can be part of that messaging. But yeah, I agree. Working on multiple levels is a great process to do. And I know that's kind of a roundabout answer, but it does go into when do you do it? The answer is yes. Can you be in a better position and get your body in a healthier process to have higher level benefits? Yes. So it's up to you to decide what that path looks like.
Okay, from Sylvia, has this therapy benefited patients with severe hip arthritis? Can it prevent the need for joint replacement? I believe Health Sharing Ministries will pay for it.
So that's what's interesting, and I'm not going to be able to kind of on this say health share ministry and who pays what and does it or doesn't. And I know there's a lot of difficulties that we've seen with that. That would be an individual thing to answer. However, just think regeneratively speaking, if you have all the messaging, regardless of your age, it can awaken the body. We have seen regeneration in joints. We've seen regeneration in knees and hips and hearts and lungs and brains and eyes. So we do have people that have canceled the need for or canceled their joint replacement surgery due to their benefits. The only caveat, Sylvia, I'll say to you is, again, that statement I said, when pain is your barometer, you often miss the miraculous. Your body prioritizes your organs first. And so sometimes we see the organic benefits before we see the joint. That's where the medical team, would decide mode of delivery if it needed to be in the joint and the IV or whatever. But it is the best chance of regeneration. Otherwise, we're simply managing the decline.
Okay. So personally, one of our board members, April, in January, she had torn her ACL, her PCL, and her MCL in her knee and broke her, is it her tibia, I think. So anyways, she was supposed to go in for surgery. So she did the therapy, the stem cell therapy, and she did not have to go in for surgery the following month. She is walking and doing great. Um, she does feel that these stem cell therapy did attribute to her not having to have the surgery.
And the thing on that too, Tracy, before you do that, here's the good news is worst case scenario, you still need a surgery because it wasn't enough, but you recover much more quickly. So it's still a win-win.
Okay, so from Sarah, will the stem cells circulate throughout the body, i.e., can they repair the gut lining, brain, etc.?
So the answer for this is that's what stem cells in our body do, as the video showed. It is that actual intelligence, that innate intelligence that dictates where that goes. That's why I give God the glory on it. It's what He gave us to build our bodies that we now get to, because of technology, separate out and from that donated cord and cord blood of that newborn and use to rebuild. And regardless of, here's the answer is whatever the cell is, that cell makes the tissue makes organ. Remember, go back, cellular regeneration. If you're asking, will it help X, Y, or Z? What are those diagnoses have their roots in? Cellular degeneration. So yes, your answer is cellular regeneration. Great question.
Okay, from Kim and Glenn. I had 4 cervical discs replaced and 5 vertebrae fused in 2020. I'm in less pain now, but I'm not pain-free. Would stem cell therapy help someone like me?
So I have had cases very similar to yours. One of them that comes to mind is a gentleman that literally was fused almost full spine. I've got pictures of his x-rays, rods and screws, 5 surgeries. He walked into our clinic on a walker, shuffling his feet. And what happens is, even though if the discs are replaced and the vertebrae are fused, yes, we've seen people where they've had regenerative discs. Very difficult for, as you were saying, in a situation where there's fusions. However, this person, he said, what do you think? I said, if it can break down the scar tissue, if your body can restore messaging and signaling, the body is miraculous. And it's our best chance at getting things back. And I'm happy to report for him. I've got videos of him literally doing a dance down the sidewalk. He's not perfect. But I say to you, Kim and Glenn, whichever one of you that is, if 20% improvement could happen, is it worth it? If 40%, what does that look like? And that's what we can expect. We're not 100%, everyone. This isn't, well, I believe it's always 100%. It's just that we're not 100% on it doing what you may want, and it may take several rounds of therapy. That's based on severity, chronicity, and expectation of outcome. Because if you need something to happen fast, then you do a higher dose. Of course, there's, the financial aspect comes with that. So,
Okay, Melissa, I think this is more a question for me. We know that RFK Jr. has received stem cell therapy because he has said so publicly. I know Bobby personally, and I know he's done many things to improve his health. Um, so, did it fix his voice box? A lot of things that he has done has benefited it. Yes. A lot of things that he has done I mean, if you look at him, he is 70 years old and moves around and looks like he is probably 40 or 50, right? He's in great shape. He's in much better shape than me, and I'm 50. So, I, I, uh, I can't really there's not much to comment that. but I do know that he does do his best, and I believe, and this is just my belief, it's not what he has told me, that he is working on, you know, other alternative therapies and treatments being researched, you know, in the United States to be FDA approved, so that insurance will cover things like stem cell therapy. Um, so. And then Sylvia, will stem cell therapy benefit after total hip replacement? Can it regenerate torn labrum cartilage?
So think again, your body built it in the first place, right? And so if we can get the messaging and remind it how to do it again, it's absolutely the best chance. When you do your research and look at things, you can go to places like clinicaltrials.gov and type in stem cells and you know, hip regeneration, and you'll find a lot of information. We have seen both. Post-surgically, you know, my mom had a knee replacement, and she had polio as a kid, severe scoliosis, and later in life it necessitated that. I wish we had this for my father. He passed of a heart attack. He now works he was an attorney. He works in the courts of heaven now, is what I say, Tracy. But with my mom, we did have this, and we did one knee replacement on her before we had the regenerative therapies. And then we got this. She was diagnosed, or she became bedridden due to her scoliosis, and tried all the other alternatives because I'm her son. You know, you look at all those, that generation walked that direction first. And then her surgeons agreed that she couldn't survive the surgery. So we did the regenerative therapy, and I've got videos of her dancing at Christmas. And yes, it helped her post-surgical process of her other knee replacement. Now, the good news is the other knee was supposed to be replaced as well, and now that's great. So if your body could build it the first time, yes, it has a chance to rebuild it again.
Okay, so we are out of questions unless anybody has any last minute questions. You know, we have done pretty well here. And so I'm just going to end this on one last note. I'm going to share my screen. If any of you can please take the time to, you know, scan the QR code, make a small donation to Autism Health. Every little bit helps. So if the rest of you that are on, you know, made a small donation, it all adds up. Or you can go to autismhealth.com. You know, every little bit makes a difference. And I do see that I think one more question came through. Is the treatment free of COVID vaccine donors? So yes, am I correct, Dr. Darcy?
Correct. Correct. It is something that not only do we actively look in the questionnaire and the medical records are very clear, we also go through a process well, let me say this, our scientist goes through the process in the lab of microscopic examination to make sure there is no evidence of spike proteins, antibodies, and things like that. So we very aggressively look to make sure we have a product that is not donated from a person that's received the COVID vaccine. Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up our webinar for today. I'm super excited. Thank you so much, Dr. Darcy, for all your knowledge and your insight. Like we said before, he will be available for consultations. You can reach out to me at Tracy, Tracy, at autismhealth.com. You can also reach out to Justin, Justin, at achievevitality.net. He does Dr. Darcy's schedule, or I can always pass on the message. And again, we truly appreciate your support, for you being here, for you taking your time out on a Saturday. You know, thank you so much. Everybody sign up for the Autism Walk. We're super excited about that. And so I'm going to bring our webinar to a close. Thank you. But also to let you know that this will be recorded and it will be put up on our website at autismhealth.com/monthly webinars. And you will be able to find it on there. There will be a YouTube link. It'll also be on YouTube. Thank you again. God bless you all, and enjoy your weekend.